들어오시. 들어오셨어. 좀 빨리 들어오셨네. 응? 이 방송하고 어떻게 되나? 약속 시간이.
야.
메시지 있으면 해줘라. 시작 메시지 네가 해주라고. 아니 그러니까 시작 메시지 네가 그쪽 연락 오면 해주라고. 응? 응. 벤지가 그 화면으로서는 이렇게 뵀지만 벤지가 그 1년이 넘은 것 같습니다. 또 이렇게 그 화면으로 존자님 건강한 모습으로 이렇게 뵈니까 정말 감사합니다. 코로나 때문에 세계적으로 어려운 상황이기도 하고 또 그런 상황에 뭐 인도도 마찬가지고 그런 것 같습니다. 존자님께서 이 한국인들도 역시 코로나 때문에 많이 시달림을 당하고 있는데 이렇게 좋은 법문 한국인을 위해서 시간 내 주셔서 대단히 감사합니다. 한국도 남북한 통일 문제도 있고 또 코로나 문제도 있고 해서 국민들이 많이 힘들어하고 뭐 우울증도 이렇게 걸리는 것 같습니다. 좋은 법문 해 주셔서 위로가 좀 됐으면 하고 또 길을 찾는 그런 계기가 됐으면 합니다. 3일간 열리는 반야심경 법회는 반야심경 자체도 한국에서 가장 많이 읽히는 경전입니다. 그래서 그런 반면에 또 가장 많이 알고 싶어 하는 그 말씀입니다. 존자님께서 깊이 말씀해 주시고 한국 불자들에게 큰 이익이 됐으면 합니다. 반야심경 공양 올리도록 하겠습니다. 불량조 옥존 비요 옥존 기소앙중조 옥존 아바로 반야 바라밀타 심경관 자제보살행심 반야 바람 시족연 온계공도일체고액 사리자 색구리 공공구리 색색적 공적 시색 수상행식력 구여시 사리자 시제북 공상불생불멸 부정부정 불감시고 공중무 생무 수상행식무 아니비설시님 성향미촉법 무한계내지 무의식계 무무명령 무무명지 내지 무노사영 무노사진 무고지 무지영 무덕이 무소득 고보리 살타의 반야 바라밀타 고심무가해무 고무유공포원리 전도몽상구경열반 삼세제불의 반야반 오득안욕따라 삼맥삼보리 고지반야바라밀타시 대신주 대명주시무 시모등경주능제일체고진실불어 고설반야바라밀타주적 주활아제 아제 바라 아제 바라 성아제 몬지 사바 아제 바라 아제 바라 성아제 몬지 사바 아제 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 바라 성아제 몬지 사바
Yeah. 다 드린데 꼬리에 쳐줘서야.
So today we have the teaching for 3 days to Korean.
다 드셔야지.
Dharma brothers and sisters, I feel very fortunate to have this opportunity. And regarding the Heart Sutra, so there are professional wisdom sutras which are in which is in 100,000 lines, and then 25,000 lines, and the shortest Pajaparamita Sutra is the single letter Sutra R. And so this R is a negative term. So the Heart Sutra is called the Perfection of Wisdom in 25 lines or verses, but it is, despite its length, it's a comprehensive text. So I'll be giving a short explanation of the Heart Sutra to the Koreans today. So first of all, the term perfection of wisdom shows that the teaching of the Buddha it cannot be followed only on the basis of faith alone. but it must be followed on the basis of mainly wisdom or intelligence. And therefore, the faith itself must also be engendered by wisdom. And then within the followers of the Buddha's teaching, there are those who follow on the basis of, who are called the ones with sharp intelligence, who follow reason. And then there are those who follow on the basis of faith. So what this shows is that the term pragya, share up in Tibetan, or wisdom or intelligence, used in the teaching, the perfection of wisdom, shows that we need to use our analytical faculty and examine the teaching of the Buddha. And the Buddha himself has said, O monks and scholars, just as a gold is tested by burning, rubbing and cutting, likewise you should accept my teaching by thoroughly examining it and then follow it, not because you have faith in me. So if you find my teaching to be reasonable and logical, then you should follow it, the Buddha says. And so, regarding the teaching of the Buddha, in India, there was Nalanda monastic institution, which was the main center where the teaching of the Buddha was upheld. And so in this tradition of the Nalanda monastic institution, the followers use reasoning and logic to engender faith in the teaching of the Buddha. And then there are lots of commentaries to the teaching of the Buddha written by the masters of Nalanda. And the teaching of the Buddha so within the teaching of the Buddha, particularly the perfection of wisdom, it is said that there are two main contents or the subject matters. One is explicit, the profound, which is the profound emptiness, and then the extensive subject matter, which shows the progression along the path. So in the Heart Sutra, of course, the progression along the path is not taught very in great detail, but we have at the end the mantra of the Heart Sutra, that yata gade gade parasam gade bodhisoha, and this indicates the path to be progress, that we tread. So within the path, there are the 5-tiered path, each of the Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, and Bodhisattva Yana. So there are 15 paths in all, 5 each. And then, with regards to the hidden or the concealed teaching of the perfection of wisdom, which is the extensive progression along the path, that is explicated in the Abhisamaya Alankara. So what we need to go through is the process of studying or listening to the teaching and gain some understanding based on that, and then also we progress further to derive understanding based on our reflection and thinking on the teaching that we have studied, and then finally derive or develop the experience through the meditation. So understanding based on meditation is developed. And in the great monastic institutions, we do study the extensively Abhisamaya Alamkara, which explicates the implicit or the concealed teaching of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. And then the perfection of wisdom teachings also teach, as I said before, that of emptiness. And in the Heart Sutra, too, there is the mention of fourfold emptiness. So we usually refer to it as fourfold emptiness, which is taught in the Heart Sutra when it says form is empty, emptiness is form, and emptiness form is not other than emptiness, and emptiness too is not other than form. So this is a very significant statement. So emptiness does not mean nothingness. So it's not like the space being empty, but whatever objects we have, when we scrutinize their way of existence, the way they exist, when you analyze them and examine their identity, what we find is that they don't exist the way they appear to be, as if they have some concrete independent existence. And therefore, emptiness is not about nothingness, but that things are dependent on other factors. For example, if we have a matter or physical object, and which has different colors and shapes and so forth, and they exist by independence on their own constituting factors. And therefore, they are without existence in and of themselves independently, but they are dependently existent. So because they lack any intrinsic existence in and of themselves, they are said to be empty. In quantum physics too, they say that things appear to our sensory perceptions. When they appear as if they have some kind of objective existence from their side. But they don't exist that way. If you search for their identity, form, sound, and so forth, when you search for their identity, they don't exist objectively. So what the quantum physics is saying, it comes down to the point, as said in the Buddhist teaching, that things exist merely by way of designation. And so when it is said that things don't exist the way they appear objectively, exist objectively, which is where they appear, when you say that, it's similar to saying what the Madhyamakas are saying. Whereas when you say that things have no objective existence, therefore they don't exist externally, that is the Chittamatra way of interpreting how things exist. And so there is a great explanation, very extensive explanation of how things are empty. So with regard to emptiness, of course, in our day-to-day life, when we take food and drinks and so forth, and when we sleep and so forth, we do these things, of course, and therefore, when we say things are without any intrinsic existence, what is use? What is the use of it? And then, if you look around us, we see all kinds of animals and insects who enjoy their own food and so forth. And so, what is the significance of emptiness when we see things happening around us? So, what happens is we develop attachment, anger, and so forth on the basis of perceiving things to have some objective existence. So that's how they appear, and we hold on to that appearance and see things as good or bad, attractive or ugly, and as if they have some objective existence. That's how they appear to us, by clinging on to that appearance. And so Master Nagarjuna says that whatever arises through dependence is said to be empty, and that is said to be designated, and that is the middle way. And whatever, since things are dependently arisen, therefore they are empty. And so, on the basis of understanding that things are dependently arisen, therefore they are empty, and therefore this helps to counter our attachment, anger, and so forth, these destructive emotions and perceptions which are based on this exaggerated outlook on things, which in turn is based on this clinging or grasping at some objective independent existence in things. And therefore, on the basis of the appearance, we create a lot of problems to others. We can see in the world today, there are lots of problems. Nobody really wants problems and difficulties, but we human beings create problems, and that is because of our exaggerated outlook on things, and that is rooted in the clinging or grasping at things having some an existence in the way they appear to us. And therefore, in order to counter this clinging, it will also help to think about what the quantum physicists say, that things have no objective existence. And one of my Indian friends has said that the quantum physics, the concept, is something new in the West. Raja Ramana has said that, the Indian nuclear physicist Raja Ramana has said that this concept of non-objectivity of things has already been developed in India over 2,000 years ago, and he even quoted certain verses from Mula Madhyamaka Karika as well. And so in Indian philosophy, this statement that things do not exist the way they appear to us, and so this is in order to counter our exaggerated outlook on things, this inappropriate rumination of things. So things are said to have no existence the way they appear to us. For example, if you take a physical object, a form, when you search for its identity, nothing whatever can be found to be that object. So, apart from that, the form does exist. When we do not do this kind of critical analysis into how the form exists, so because of our grasping at the things the way they appear to us, then we develop attachment, anger, and so on. So Aryadeva says in the 400 verses, just as the physical faculty permeates all other sensory faculties, likewise, this confusion or ignorance permeates all other destructive emotions. So our attachment, anger, and so forth arise because of clinging to things having some kind of objective existence. There is this fixation on things. And so when you tend to fixate things as if they have some objective existence, you should reflect on how things are merely designated. So these should not be left as empty words, mere words, but you should reflect on them. So usually when we look at things, there is some appearance of the thing, and as if they exist objectively from their own side, and that appearance is there. But what happens next is when you hold on to or grasp at that appearance, then attachment, anger, and so forth arise. And therefore, just reflecting on things having no objective existence helps to counter this strong clinging to the objective existence and things. But when you reflect that things do not exist objectively, but they are merely designated by using names and concepts, then it helps to counter this clinging. And so, today in the world, of course, all human beings, all of us, do not want suffering, but want happiness. So, of course, there's suffering such as suffering of aging, sickness, birth, and death are unavoidable, but we cause a lot of problems on the basis of our clinging to objective existence and cause lots of suffering to others. So it's very clear that we have a lot of problems are our own creation. And some scientists even say that when we feel mentally disturbed, so what happens is we hold on to things having some kind of objective existence, and then we also experience bias and where we discriminate between people, and then we create problems accordingly. And so the teaching of the profound emptiness is to counter this strong clinging to the objective existence things. And then when we talk about altruism, in Abhisamaya Lamkara it is said that bodhicitta is that mind which wishes to reach full enlightenment of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. And therefore, if we could combine these two principles, on the one hand, there's the emptiness, profound emptiness, which is the explicit content of the Perfection of Wisdom teachings, and then that of the altruism, the bodhicitta, together, it will be very helpful in our life. And so, the explicit content of Panchaparamita Sutras is further explained in Mula Madhyamaka Karika and so forth. by Master Nagarjuna, and the implicit content is explicated by Abhisamaya Alamkara, written by Maitreya. So this is the these are what we study in the monastic institutions as well. And then in the Heart Sutra, we find mention of the title of the text, Bhagavati. So the title of the text is given in Sanskrit, and in Tibetan translation of the Indian text, we also have the same title in Sanskrit first. And of course, there are a few texts which were translated from Chinese. And then there must also be texts which were translated from Pali as well, and maybe Indian, other Indian languages. And then there are, of course, tantric texts which were also translated from. Some of them were translated from Nepal. And so this title says Bhagavati Prajnaparamita Hridaya, which means the essence of the noble perfection of wisdom. Sutra, the Blessed Mother. So, apart from their length, all the teachings of the perfection of wisdom sutras have the same subject matter that they cover, which is the explicit teaching of emptiness and implicit teaching of the progression along the path. So it says the Blessed One is staying in Rajgiri at Vulture Peak along with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. And at that time, the Blessed One entered the meditative absorption on the varieties of phenomena called appearance of the profound. So this is the introductory remark. So how the Buddha taught this, gave this teaching, and where it was given, and to whom it was given, the audience, and who gave this teaching. So it was given by the founder of the teaching of the Buddha, the founder of Buddhism, the Buddha. And so after becoming enlightened, the first sermon of the Buddha was given in Varanasi. And so he taught the Abhidhamma, Vinaya, as well, which are found in the Pali tradition. So there are, with regard to the monastic code of discipline, there may be a few minor differences, but basically we have the same practices. And then, after the teaching in Varanasi on the Four Noble Truths, which are the four, the true suffering, true origin of suffering, true cessation, and true path. And so, when you hear about these Four Noble Truths, it makes you think, which is to say that suffering doesn't happen without any cause. It has its own cause, which are the karma and mental afflictions. So with regard to the mental afflictions, due to which we create karma, so these are the two origins, mental afflictions and karma. So how do we create karma which propels us into the samsara? And then the true cessation is to eliminate these two factors which propel us into samsara. And so, how do we get rid of these mental afflictions and karma? Because they are rooted in ignorance, we need to get rid of ignorance through insight or understanding reality. And so how do we get rid of the mental afflictions? So you get to think a lot. So it doesn't happen just by taking refuge in the Buddha, saying, I take refuge in the Buddha. So these mental afflictions don't go away merely by that. So mental afflictions are those factors which disturb our peace of mind. So how are we to overcome them? And so what is the result of applying the antidotes to these mental afflictions? And so, accordingly, since we have to work on developing the antidotes or the counter forces to these mental afflictions, and what is the root of these mental afflictions and so forth, the Buddha then taught in Rajagriha, in Vulture Peak, the teaching of the perfection of wisdom. And so the Buddha began his sermon with the Four Noble Truths in Sarnath or Varanasi, and then those disciples whose mental capacity has developed further and have become receptive to these more profound teachings, he gave this teaching on the perfection of wisdom in Vulture Peak, in Rajagriha. And so, according to the mental capacity and the sharpness of or the dullness of the disciples and followers, the Buddha gave many versions of the perfection of wisdom teachings, some extensive, some short. And so, with regard to the Vulture Peak, or Gridakut, where I have also been in the past, so it is situated in Rajagri. So there, the Buddha turned, the second turning of the wheel of Dharma. So, which is called the doctrine without characteristics. So, in order to understand the true cessation and true path, we need to study the teaching of the perfection of wisdom sutras. So, this is not something that everybody can do, but we need to have a very sharp and powerful faculty or intellect to understand this teaching. So in Vulture Peak, in Rajagri, at Vulture Peak, in Rajagri, the Buddha gave the perfection of wisdom teachings. So usually I say that in on Vulture Peak, where the Buddha's disciples gathered, they were of quite a they had quite a powerful merit that they had accumulated, and also they were of higher mental capacity or sharp faculty. And so in this Heart Sutra, we find mention of Avalokiteshwara. So ordinary people who can have access or who can actually see Avalokiteshwara should have been there, may have been there. So without that kind of a karma, a pure kind of a karma, they would not be able to have been able to see Avalokiteshwara. And so it's not just an ordinary being, but some people with pure karma. Otherwise, when Avalokiteshwara was speaking during this odd time, I mean, someone without that kind of a pure karma would think that Avalokiteshwara was speaking to himself. So, with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas, the Buddha was residing there, and at the same time as well, the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, the great being, clearly beheld. So the Buddha was absorbed in the meditative concentration on the varieties of phenomena called the appearance of the profound. And so the phrase appearance of the profound, so appearance could be interpreted as the varieties of things on which we establish emptiness. And so profundity here refers to emptiness. So through this appearance of the profound mentioned here, we can actually say that the Buddha was giving teaching by understanding the mental disposition of his disciples. And at that time as well, the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, the great being, clearly beheld the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom itself, and saw that even the five aggregates are empty of intrinsic existence. So Avalokiteshvara was also absorbed in the profound emptiness. So what is meant by this emptiness? Here it says that even the five aggregates are empty, should be seen as empty of intrinsic existence. So all these objects that we see around us, form, smell, touch, and so forth, they don't exist the way they appear to us. So that even the five aggregates are empty of intrinsic existence. Here, the term even, regarding that, in the Korean language, maybe you don't find this word, even. When I inquired about the Chinese translation, this word is not there in the Chinese. And so I asked people who know Sanskrit, and they say it is in Sanskrit. So because Buddhism in Korea spread from China, so if you pay attention, you may find that this word even is not there in your translation in Korean of the Heart Sutra. So this word signifies that not only the person who is designated on the basis of the five psychophysical aggregates, even the five psychophysical aggregates themselves are without any intrinsic existence. So that is what is signified by the word even. So not only the psychophysical aggregates, but even the person designated on the basis of them has no intrinsic existence. So, of course, in Buddhism asserts that things have no independent self. So, though we do say that things have no intrinsic existence, self has no intrinsic existence, we still tend to hold on to the five aggregates as if they have some existence, intrinsic existence, and therefore these five aggregates also should be seen as having no intrinsic existence, it says. Thereupon, through the Buddha's inspiration, the Venerable Shariputra spoke to the noble Avalokiteshwara Bodhisattva, the great being, and said, "How should a noble son or noble daughter who wishes to engage in the practice of professional wisdom train?" When this had been said, the holy Avalokiteshwara Bodhisattva, the great being, spoke to the Venerable Shariputra and says, "Shariputra, any noble son or noble daughter who so wishes to engage in the practice of professional wisdom should clearly see this way. They should see perfectly that even the five aggregates are empty of intrinsic existence. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, and form too is not other than emptiness. Likewise, feelings, perception, mental formations, and consciousness are all empty. So we develop attachment, anger, and so forth on the basis of form, smell, and so forth. But mainly through our sight, to which all kinds of things appear, and then we develop these destructive, the mental afflictions, and therefore we become disturbed and unhappy, and therefore here the form is used as the subject to teach emptiness. So when we say things are empty, it's not like empty space, that there's nothing. But what emptiness shows is that things are dependently origin, as taught in the fundamental treatise of the Middle Way. And so it says things are dependent, because things are dependently arisen, therefore they are empty. Therefore form is empty. And emptiness is form. And saying that the emptiness is not other than form, and form too is not other than emptiness, shows that form and emptiness are of the same essence or nature, but conceptually different. So, Mula Madhyamaka Karika, the fundamental treatise of the Middle Way by Nagarjuna, is a very precious text. Of course, his other texts as well, but mainly this one. And then, with regard to its commentaries, we have the Prasanapada commentary, but mainly the meaning commentary, which is the Madhyamaka Avatara by Chandrakirti. And so in the 6th chapter, we find mention of the 4 logical absurdities that are argued if we that are used by Master Chandrakirti, where he says that if things were to have any intrinsic independent existence, then the Arya beings' direct perception of emptiness would be like the destroyer of entities. So this is verse number 34, 35. So verse number 34, 35 shows that so nothing whatever should be hoped to be found when we do critical analysis into the nature of things. And so it says that when such phenomena are analyzed, nothing is found as their nature apart from suchness. So the conventional truth is the everyday world should not be subjected to thorough analysis. So verse number 35. And then verse number 36, in the context of suchness, certain reasoning disallows arising from the self or from something other, and that same reasoning disallows them from on the conventional level too. So by what means then is your arising established? And so it mentions that if things were to have any intrinsic existence, then there is four logical absurdities would befall on you. That Arya beings, meditative absorption on emptiness would be destroyer of the entities, and that the conventional truth would withstand the ultimate analysis of reasoning, ultimate reasoning, and that ultimate production cannot be denied, and that the Buddha teaching that phenomena are absent of self-identity or would not hold true, which are mentioned, which these four are mentioned in Jetsongkhapa's essence of true eloquence. So we developed attachment, anger, and so forth on the basis of appearance, clinging to the appearance as if that there is some intrinsic existence in the objects. So, and then in Madhyamaka Avatara, Master Chantakirti praises compassion, says, as compassion alone is accepted to be the seed of the perfect harvest of Buddhahood, the water that nourishes it, and the fruit that is long a source of enjoyment, I'll praise compassion at the start of all. And so on the one hand, we have self-cherishing attitude, this extreme way of cherishing oneself. And so to counter this, there is the practice of bodhicitta. And in Abhisamaya Alankara, there is extensive explanation of this altruistic spirit of enlightenment, bodhicitta. So the great compassion, or the bodhicitta, helps to counter this self-extreme, self-centered attitude. And the understanding of emptiness helps to destroy this the clinging to true existence in things. And so these two, the true clinging to true existence in things and clinging to self-cherishing attitude, are the two main sources of all our problems. And therefore, in the Bodhisattvacharya Avatara by Shandideva, there is the teaching on equaling and exchanging self and others to counter extreme self-centered attitude, which is very powerful teaching given there. And I've been studying this text, Bodhisattvacharya Avatara, over and over again since I received the teaching on it from Kunalama Rinpoche Tenzin Gyaltsen. So on top of studying and reflecting on the emptiness, teaching on emptiness taught in Mula Madhyamaka Karika and so forth, I add this teaching of equaling and exchanging self and others, which is taught in the Bodhisattva Charya Avatara. So where it says, unless you exchange your joy and happiness with the suffering of others, leave alone reaching Buddhahood, even in samsara, the cycle of existence, you'll not have happiness. So even in this life, you will not be happy because of self-cherishing attitude. And whatever suffering there is in the world all come from the wishing oneself to be happy, and whatever happiness there is in the world all come from wishing others to be happy, Chandideva says in Bodhisattva Charyavatara. And Madhyamaka Avatara also I use every day. And these four logical absurdities that I mentioned earlier are very powerful reasoning to counter the clinging to intrinsic existence and things. And then Bodhisattva Charyavatara's 6th chapter and 8th chapter are also very important, very powerful teachings. And so the 6th chapter teaches the patience, which to counter anger, and the 8th chapter 8 teaches the methods to counter our self-centered attitude. So when you follow these reasonings given to counter the self-cherishing attitude, you will find them dumbfounded. These so teachings on emptiness and teachings on bodhicitta, they make the self-cherishing attitude and the clinging to objective existence and things dumbfounded. Unless, of course, we leave them in words alone. If you really reflect seriously on these teachings and get some taste of them, you will find their significance. And so, from my own experience, I'm talking about this. So, is Mula Madhyamaka Karika in Korean translation? It is there in Chinese. And with regard to using logic and reasoning to do analysis into the nature of things and so forth, we have the texts written by Master Dignaga and Dharmakirti. So these texts by these two masters are not there in Chinese. So because the followers of Buddhism in China didn't pay attention to learning reason and logic, it seems they didn't translate these texts. So we are today in the 21st century. And so we cannot follow the teaching of the Buddha only on the basis of faith. And when we especially need to discuss with scientists, you can't just use scriptures. So we need reasoning. So
Good morning, Your Holiness. We are thankful for your teaching today. On the first day, we have 5 questions from 3 different temples in Korea. The first question will be asked by Kumgang Sunim, the abbot of Myohangsa Temple.
So Myohangsa Temple, from the abbot of Myohangsa Temple in Korea, Kumgang Sunim will ask this.
존자님께서 세상에 오래 머무셨으면 좋겠습니다. 첫 번째
So greetings. Despite the differences in goals between Buddhism and science, His Holiness the Dalai Lama has continued to work with scientists for over 30 years.
불교와
how should Buddhism view signs
불교에서
and
과학을
how
어떻게 바라봐야
do they
하는지와
help
또 서로 어떤
each
도움이
other?
되는지 알고 싶습니다.
囊是的才是密语明着是，但可好考虑
So,
些求人。
of course, we can say that the science and Buddhism have different goals. Buddhism focuses mainly on mind and emotions, and science focuses on matter more. But if you think closely, Buddhism brings peace of mind, but science has focused on matter, mainly matter so far, and not paid much attention to our peace of mind, mental and emotions. But slowly, scientists are gaining some interest and paying attention to learning about mind and emotions. So Buddhism is a method to develop peace of mind, emotional hygiene, in other words, whereas science has the objective to develop, to bring health, good health, physical health. So since our health also is based on our state of mind and emotions, and therefore there is interest among scientists. There's more and more interest in learning from Buddhism about mind and emotions. We are not talking about liberation, nirvana, and omniscience, or past and future lives. But so, as you have asked, how do they help each other? So I think we can have mutual benefit between science and Buddhism, because scientists can learn from Buddhism about the workings or system of mind and emotions, and then Buddhists can learn from scientists about the the structure of the brain, the neurons, workings of neurons, and so forth. And therefore, we can have discussions and have benefit mutually. So this is my experience.
Next.
The second question of the day is also from Kumgang S님.
So the same abbot.
미래 사회의 희망을
I would like for the concept of hope to be incorporated in the education system. However, the current emphasis is on the qualification and competition rather than aspects of character development. How can love and compassion be incorporated in the education system? So, in any case, of us do not want happiness. The fact that we do not want suffering but want happiness is something which doesn't need explanation. Right from our childhood, right at birth, we have these wishes. And then the root of happiness is love and compassion. So my mother had told me that when she was feeling a little disturbed, mentally, emotionally disturbed, she found that I was kicking her, And so, in any case, right from birth, we want happiness, and we are nurtured by love and compassion. We are nurtured by the mother's milk. And in animals also, the fact that mothers have and child have mutual love has nothing to do with religion. It's something natural. So it's for our survival. So when a human child is 3, 4, 5 years old, the child does not make any discrimination on the basis of colors, religion, and so forth, background of family, and they play with one another, play together very happily. But once they join school system, there's no teaching on love and compassion. And the children learn about their race, religion, and their social status are being rich and poor, and so forth. And so, schools don't teach love and compassion. So there's lack of teaching on love and compassion in schools. So now we need to teach about the importance of love and compassion. Even if it's for our health and to have a good life, we should teach this. So we do not need to teach about reaching freedom or liberation, nirvana, and so forth. Therefore, there is need for teaching about love and compassion in the school system as part of the school curriculum. And so when we teach this, we do not need to touch religion, but we can follow the Indian tradition of secularism. So without having to touch on any religion, so children can be taught about love and compassion as a secular subject, not as a religious subject. And so they should be taught about the benefit to their health and friendly relations between their parents. And so we do not need to talk about past and future lives or anything else, but benefits that we draw in this life. So scientists say that social animals naturally have love and compassion, and therefore we as human beings, because we are social animals, we need to take responsibility on the community, and therefore it's natural that we practice love and compassion when we live as social animals. So when you have love and compassion within yourself, the family that you live in would be also happy. And then, since you have your neighbors on which also you depend,
침지성을 잘 치면이나 아니
And when you have problems, when neighbors have problems, you will also extend your help to them. And similarly, it is the case from the neighbor's side. So, and similarly, it is the case with the community. When you have love and compassion, the whole community would be loving and have peace. So this can further be extended to the whole world. So as nation, you can also create peace. And North and South Korea have the same language, and you are of the same race, but in political terms, you make difference between yourselves. And then, religion-wise also, you have the same religion. So in this way, we should think of how we can come together through the teaching of love and compassion. And then the whole world can come together as with a sense of community as one humanity. So we have, of course, individuals, individual families and nations and so forth, but we should think of being as we should have the sense of oneness of human beings. So this is what I advocate for the whole world. And in Buddhism, we don't talk about our own country, but we make prayer for all sentient beings to have happiness in its cause and to be free from suffering in its causes. So, since this is what we pray for, we need to think about the whole world and not discriminate between me and they, us and them. Third question, please.
The third question will be asked by Boryeon S님, the abbot of Dosoram Temple.
달라이마 존자님께서 건강하셔서 저희 곁에 오래 머물러 주시기를 간청드립니다.
So greetings to your
올해는
Holiness.
다람살라에 가서 존자님 법문을 직접 듣지는 못하지만 인터넷으로 존자님을 뵙고 또 이렇게 법문을 들을 수 있어서 너무나 감사드립니다. 부처님의
So
다른
thank you.
법에 의지하는 것은 많은 이로움이
I'm
있지만
trying to share Dharma with others, but it is not easy.
다른 사람들이 좋은 동기를 일으키고
Please share with
함께
us
공부할
a
수
good
있는
method to
좋은
inspire
가르침을
others
주시면
and
감사하겠습니다.
study together.
또 되게 저기버디
So,
시우던시리
as I already answered the second question, so the 7 billion people, if we could have develop love and compassion with a sense of oneness of humanity,
생각을 리뷰고를 14달러 아니 참석 공부를 해야지 다
of course, religions also talk about love and compassion, but Buddhism emphasizes developing love and compassion on the basis of reason and logic. So, we should develop love and compassion on the basis of the sense of oneness of humanity. So if we can make people aware of the importance of love and compassion, we could, of course, go based on the teachings that are given in Bodhisattva Avatara and others. But basically, it is important to make people aware how important love and compassion are in our life. For example, if you look at the theistic religion like Christianity, they say that all of us are creation of God, and therefore, with that understanding of being the creation of one God, we can think of ourselves as being brothers and sisters. And then, on top of the basic understanding of love and compassion, then we can add the teachings that are given in our text. Next, please.
The next question will also be asked by Boryan S님.
팬데믹이라는 경험하지 못한 상황에서
Our earthly desires often affect our perception of the self and other people around us. How can we resist or overcome these negative
부정적인 생각이 일어날 때
feelings?
어떻게 바라보고 다스려야 하는지 도움이 되는 말씀 부탁드립니다.
대사다 영웅 교화나 독서 강유미 송로 따들이야
So for this,
그다 대사가 참배 아니 시당다
so love
고프게
or attachment, anger, or hatred, when they are very strong, I mean, they can be countered more easily. But when they are in a dormant state or not active, when it's more difficult to work on that, against that. So, of course, we can meditate on the filthy nature of our body and to counter desire or attachment, and meditate on loving kindness to counter anger. And also bodhicitta. So these can help to reduce the intensity of our attachment, anger, and so forth. So there are ways to work against these destructive emotions when they are active in us, strong and active. And but to counter the more against these negative emotions when they are not active, we need to practice the spirit of enlightenment and the wisdom of emptiness. So in our practice of Dharma, we need also to practice patience or tolerance, which comes when there is a provocateur, someone who provokes anger in us, and therefore someone who may be called an enemy, your enemy, is useful or helpful in practicing tolerance or patience. Okay.
Our last question of the day will be provided by Dharamsala S님, the abbot of 서장사 Temple.
선생님 안녕하세요. 항상 건강하십시오. 제 질문은
Your Holiness said that if we accumulate good virtue, it is not difficult to realize emptiness.
그렇다면 복덕을 짓는다는 것과
Please explain the relationship between accumulating virtue
설명해 주십시오.
and realizing emptiness. So, accumulation of merit and accumulation of wisdom. So the main reason is to attain physical dimension of a Buddha and the wisdom dimension of a Buddha. So these are our goals, the ultimate goals that we attain. The physical dimension of the Buddha is aimed in order to be able to help others. And so, in other words, we make Buddhahood our goal in order to help others. And so, the Buddhas help others by appearing in the physical form. So the physical dimension is meant for others, whereas this comes when we become fully enlightened. And so these two, the merit and wisdom, the more you develop your merit, the better your understanding of emptiness will be. And the better your understanding of emptiness, the better you see the possibility to attain Buddhahood. Because things are dependently arisen, we can understand how these two, the merit and wisdom, can complement each other. So the accumulation of merit and wisdom, we talk about these two, and then on the basis level, there are the two truths. And on the basis of the two truths, we develop the path, wisdom, and method. And these bring about the resultant goals or Buddhahood, the two dimensions, physical and wisdom of the Buddha. So thank you.
다 대신도 소화도 두시다 넘버 7은 동보고 시르부 대대로 최대로 동반이니 친이고 마지고 마가와 주모도 저음하고 강음하고 시르부 대대로는 동반이를 숨.
Therefore, Shariputra, all phenomena are emptiness. They are without defining characteristics. They are not born, they do not cease, they are not defiled, they are not undefiled, they are not deficient, and they are not complete. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no mental formation, no consciousness, and so forth. Up to there's no I element, and so on, up to no mind element, including up to no element of mental consciousness. So these are referring to the different the sources or the basis of consciousness. And then there's no ignorance, there's no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to no aging and death, no extinction of aging and death. Likewise, there's no suffering, origination, cessation in our path, there is no wisdom, no attainment, even non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since Bodhisattvas no attainment, they rely on this perfection of wisdom and abide in it, having no obscuration in their mind. They have no fear, and by going utterly beyond error, they will reach the end of nirvana. All the Buddhas who abide in the three times attained the full awakening of unexalted perfect enlightenment by relying on this profound perfection of wisdom. We'll stop here for today and see you tomorrow. Thank you.
See you again.